So, I haven't done a session in a while, but I decided today I was going to go and get some ramen. I haven't been to this ramen place in quite a while either. It's my favorite. It's in Mira Mesa, but I figured I'd go by way of the beach. It's a beautiful day. Cruise a little bit down the highway initially, and then head to the beach area, and then head over to the restaurant. It's 74 degrees out today. Last time I did a video, the audio was it was pretty messed up. When I was on the highway, I had the shield here way too low, so I was enjoying the breeze, but the audio got all messed up. So this will be better. Try to avoid that. This is the 2021 DCT Honda Gold Wing. I've had it now since 2022, and I love it. I haven't had one single issue with it. It's been easy to maintain, easy to do the oil changes and stuff. I've had some modifications. I got the new windshield, which I like. It's easy to maintain. It's a glass type of material. I'm not sure if it's glass, but so it doesn't get scratched. F4 Customs windshield. You can rise up and down. And I got the risers for the handlebar. They raised the handlebars about an inch, which I feel more comfortable. I know it's only an inch, but it made a difference. I was a little bit more hunched over, more sport position before. And that got to you like after long rides, being more forward. I felt like I had more weight forward on my arms, and so this is more set back and more upright. And then I got the Gold Wing, not Gold Wing, Gold Strike highway pegs, which have worked out great. I installed them upside down, but they look good. I also got the tie-down rack for the back, so I can bungee cord stuff to the back when I go shopping or something. And this new thing, the latest thing, is this paddle thing right here on my throttle. It lets me just rest my hand against the throttle and not use too much grip pressure to generate. You know what? Let's go the real back way. So we're in San Diego. This is Carmel Valley area. But yeah, so rather than twist the throttle, I can just rest my hand on it. And I really like that. So like when cruising around, I don't even really use my fingers at all to grip it. I just push down with the heel of my palm. And that was like $7, so super cheap. I use the cruise control on the highway, but when it's around town and stuff, I'll just go ahead and use this paddle thing. One thing you have to make sure of is when you approach an area where you want to stop and go, like at a light or in a parking area, whatever, you gotta, what I do is I get away from using the paddle completely and move my hand way inside so I don't hit the paddle, because I've accidentally hit the paddle when I didn't want to. You always have to do that once, and it really wakes you up. It's like, okay, let's not do that again. So what I do is I'll move my hand way in, so now I can't even really touch the paddle. and then it's fine, good to go. I'm coming up on 10,000 miles on the bike. Prior to this bike, I never owned a bike with like an automatic, except like mini bike back in the day with the lawnmower engine on it. So all my other bikes had shifters and clutch, but this is strictly automatic. And once you get used to it, you know, everyone says the hard part is the slow speed stuff, and that's true. That takes a little getting used to. But with this big of a bike, I don't even really mess around with too many slow speed turns. If I have to, I'll do a 15-point turn if I have to. You know, just it has a reverse gear, so most of the time I'll just do 3-point turn and turn around rather than try to loop it down low and try to do the. What you have to do is you have to use your rear brake and the throttle at the same time, and that's how you control the really low speed stuff. But like I said, I mean, if I'm going to turn a corner or something, I'm always on both brake and gas to control the speed. But once it's in a parking lot, if I have to turn around, I'll just do the 3-point turn. It's just it's 800 pounds. I don't want to dump it. And with my luck, it'll just fall right on my knee or something. So I hope you guys are all doing well. We've had a pretty nice winter here in San Diego. With only a couple of weeks we had rainy weather, and it was kind of very chilly for us, you know. And but that's about it. The rest of the time it's almost been too hot. It's been crazy. Sometimes almost in the 90s. I think it did hit 90. The bike has been spectacular. I turned 67 a couple months ago. I'm about 5'10", almost 5'11", and I weigh about 160 pounds. And I find it super comfortable. The weight is low, so it's easy to handle. So all these goodies, you know, easy to handle, low maintenance, super easy to drive with the DCT. I typically don't drive too much more than a couple hours at a time. I did one trip which was 7 hours one way to go from here to Prescott, Arizona. And that was a grind. It was especially difficult because I went through the desert and it was 105 degrees and there was no place to stop and get relief from the sun. And so that was especially difficult. But so I keep the rides short. Just go out, get some air, and I don't try to drive during any kind of rush hour stuff. It's kind of funny. I look at this bike like two bikes. You know, it's the couch, you know, Gold Wing, big couch, comfortable, and then it's the more sporty bike if you jump on it, you know. So you can screw around in whatever mood you're in, you know. Nice, the train. Pretty cool. It's nice. You can ride the train up to Anaheim and go see the Angels. I like the Red Sox, so when they're coming to town, I like to take the train up, bypass all the traffic, which is a nightmare. So major work going on here. Baseball season just kicked off. We're starting to hit the lunch traffic. It's 11:30 right now. A lot of people like to come down here either to hike, go for a little walk, or lunch, or there's a couple good restaurants right down here near the beach. So many kids on e-bikes. Something but the state is trying to, it's almost like they're attacking it city by city. But it's just so super dangerous for those kids. I mean, to think, for me to ride my motorcycle, I had to get a license and then had to take class, learn about the rules of the road and everything else. And those kids just jump on and go, and they're right out in traffic with everybody else. Crazy. It's Torrey Pines Beach right to our left. We'll be looping by there. Straight ahead up the hill there. That's Del Mar area. That's the PCH, Pacific Coast Highway. Like at a turn like this is where I'll use the brake and the gas at the same time. Kind of cruise around real slow. This is Torrey Pines Beach, Torrey Pines Cliffs. That's where up on there, up on the top of the cliffs is where the Torrey Pines golf course is. Pretty mild surf today. tough to get parking here at lunchtime. Look at this guy. Wow. Nice. Thing you'll definitely want to do when you get the bike is because this one doesn't have the like automatic or computer like dashboard controlled suspension setup, so you have to do it manually. So there's a panel, it's really simple. You just pop this panel on the side below the seat, and then there's like a piston kind of thing there, and you turn it and it'll click at each new setting, and then you can get the amount of suspension, like rear suspension you need, how much travel you need set up for your weight. You know, initially mine felt very low, like I was getting too much travel, so I'd bottom out sometimes, and really I could feel it in my butt when I'd hit like a good dip in the road or something, and so I just adjusted, you know, so you play around with it, try adjusted, take it for a spin, and then once that gets dialed in, you're good to go. Then you don't really mess around with it anymore. I mean, except for people that ride two up or have a lot of extra weight from luggage or something, you have to adjust it again. Kind of an overcast day, not overcast, but kind of smoky. I hope there's no fire nearby. That's the worst thing in this area is, you know, when I first moved here almost 30 years ago, I heard so much about, I was always nervous about earthquakes, which we've had a couple in the 30 years I've been here, and that's about it. And it was nothing to worry about, but you could, I remember watching my car in the driveway. I had a pickup truck, and it was shaking pretty good while the earth was rocking. But the bigger issues, you probably know from the news, is fires. I mean, we don't get rain forever. And all this just would torch up in a second. And then you have the combination of what we get, these Santa Ana winds that come from the east to the west, from the desert, and they can get up to 70 miles an hour. So that's the biggest concern. And luckily, we've been evacuated one time so far in 30 years because of the fire. And luckily nothing, our neighborhood wasn't impacted. But some people were, and it's just a horror show. UCSD is to my right, the whole area on my right over here. That's the campus. A very large area. My son went there, a lot of great running trails. He was on the cross-country team. We're just crossing over the 5 right now. That's how you get to downtown area. It's about 20 minutes to the airport in downtown. So we're headed east now. I told you last trip, I was trying to tell you the story. It might have been difficult to hear me because of I didn't have the visor up, windshield up enough, but my neighbor unexpectedly went in for a quadruple bypass. And so before he went in, I saw him out front and he told me what happened. I said, well, you look like you're in great shape. And he said, yeah, he's like 63 or so, 64. He said, yeah, all my numbers were good, my LDL, but all of a sudden he said he got tested for his LPA, which is, I never even heard of it, but so capital L, capital P, little a, lipoprotein A. And it too is an indicator, kind of like your LDL. It's one of those things that if it's in your blood and it's like a high number, it can cause you issues with cardiac issues, with blockages and everything else, similar to what LDL does. So anyhow, he said, yeah, you should get tested. I got tested, my number was really high, and then when that happened, they suggested I get an angiogram, and so he did that, and then they immediately said, oh, you got to go get a quadruple. He had been so clogged up, even though he's been on a really good diet. The LPA thing is something that your body generates. It's genetic. But the good news is they're coming out with drugs to address that. I'm actually on a drug trial right now on one of those LPA drugs because I found out my LPA number was high. So, long story short, as you get older, and you can even get it tested when you're younger, because that number doesn't really change unless you get medications for it. But it's one of those things, even with the good diet and everything else, if your LPA number is really up there, you can just slowly collect calcium in your arteries and get in some trouble. So worth a check. It's done by simply at your blood test. You just ask them to add that. So it's a very simple test. Anyhow. Yeah, so as an example for me, I got it tested, then I found out I had a high number, so then I used that information to leverage the insurance company to test me further. And so I got a CT angiogram, And then they said I had 70 to 99% blockage in one of my arteries. So then with the CT angiogram, it's not a gold standard test. There can be some shadowing that causes you bogus numbers, and so anyhow. But then I leveraged off that data to get the angiogram done, and that's when they really, then now they know, they go in, they put like a tube up in your vein all the way to your heart, and they look at your heart and they can see how the blood is flowing through your heart while it's pumping. And they found that the blockage that the CT angiogram said was 70 to 99% or 90% was actually 40 to 50%, which is still not great, but the difference is I can handle that. I can deal with it through diet and exercise versus needing a stent. But like my neighbor, my numbers weren't that bad. Before I got the LPA test, my numbers were fine. I had no symptoms, I had no indications that I had this blockage going on. So that's why I told all my golf buddies, and they've all gotten tested, and some of them had to go further like I did and got the CT angiogram, and some are in the middle of the process. And it's just something, I worked in the heart industry for 10 years and heart monitoring company. And we would constantly get reports from someone that would just, have a heart attack and die. And prior to their heart attack, they really didn't have any regular major symptoms. They were on the heart monitor for reasons, maybe they're having PVCs or something, but then they're dead, and they probably just needed a stent. And so this will give you the chance to get ahead of all that, especially as you get older. Back to the bike. So anyhow, this has been spectacular, and the best part is it's so easy to drive. You don't have to be some kind of experienced biker. With being that it's like an automatic, or it is an automatic, it's like more like driving a scooter. It doesn't take a lot of skill with the shifting and the clutch. The best part for me is my upshifting was horrible throughout my life on my motorcycles and dirt bikes. Just that motion, something about my left ankle didn't like to come up that high all the time, so I missed gears and pain in the ass. But anyhow, but with this automatic, it's really, if you've never had one or never driven one, I remember when I took one for a ride for the first time, I hadn't been thinking about getting a bike because I had one. I think it was like maybe 10 years earlier when I was working, and it was kind of like a Harley, wannabe bike, Kawasaki Vulcan. And I had trouble, dealing with the shift, like I said, in the clutch. It wasn't easy to do. My grip wasn't all that great, but and so eventually I had some issues where a car didn't see me, and so I said, okay, I'm gonna just give it up. So I did. And then I read about the DCT either in YouTube or I saw a video on or something. And I said, shit, that makes things a lot easier. I can focus completely on my surroundings and everything else, and not the clutch and the shifter, And so I took one for a test spin and done. I think anybody out there that's thinking about getting one of these things, if you haven't, once you take it for a test drive, be prepared to take out your checkbook. It really, really, really makes it easy and relaxing. So you mainly focus on just enjoying the scenery and the breeze and just trying to not get killed by some guy in a car or something, but it's very nice. Worth every penny. I'm sure the other bike manufacturers they've got to be going in the same direction. I haven't been checking in a while, so I don't know where they're at, but they have a stop sign. That was scary. Okay. Well, I think we've gone about the longest way possible to go from my house to this ramen restaurant. So I've got a nice little loop in. That's Miramar Naval Air Force area over here on our right. They own a lot of that land. So they own all of that land. Oh, maybe it's, yeah, Marine Corps. Now I'm not sure what it stands for. MCAS. I'm sure it's not Marines or whatever. Now we're on Route 5 going north. Get off up here on Mira Mesa. like the Sorrento area. Sorrento Valley, which is like a neighborhood of San Diego. San Diego City is so huge. They break it up into neighborhoods. So otherwise you'd never be able to say, oh, I'm in San Diego. Well, great, where the hell are you in San Diego? Mesa Road has 1 billion restaurants on it. I love going over here. If you're a foodie, this is the place to be. A lot of like $2 and $3 restaurants that are just spectacular. You know, Vietnamese places and crab, Cajun food. A lot of burger joints. Qualcomm headquarters are up that street. A lot of Qualcomm businesses around here, or buildings I should say. Got new tires. My old ones, I noticed, were getting pretty slick. Yeah, the initial tires are, I think they might have been, I can't remember who the manufacturer was, but they're like a soft, and so the soft style, so they don't have you don't get a lot of miles on them. But I switched to, I'm trying to think of the name. I'm gonna have to wait till I get to the restaurant. But I think there are something E4s. They're a very popular recommended tire for this bike. And I'm supposed to get maybe a lot more than 9,000 out of them. So we'll see. Okay, we're almost there. Here we are. So let me take a look at what tires I bought. I should know that. Oh, that's it, Dunlop. So I think they're called E4s, Dunlop E4s, but I love them. So that's another thing that's new. So yeah, here's the tie-down rack. Here's that thing I told you about. I got an extra little extender kind of from Gold Strike for the brake pedal just because it makes it bigger. There used to be a little knob there. It was harder for me to find with my foot, but this worked out great. And these are the Gold Strike highway bars. And yeah, so I got the riser things that raised the handlebars up. You had to pop the handlebars off and put them on. And the windshield. And I think that's it. Oh yeah, and also the center stand. You got to get one of these puppies because then you can do the oil changes yourself. It's super easy, you know. But anyhow, okay, all you guys, take care.